Hey folks, Steve here with another Empire of the Sun solo playthrough video for you today. We are going to be looking at what is turn 4 of the campaign, technically the third turn that we'll be playing this given scenario. Based on the title of the video, we might see this being the end of this initial playthrough because the U.S. is in a rough spot. They're down to 3 political will, and the Japanese have a couple of different ways that they could potentially continue to kick that down. Not all of them immediately occurring, but like they're in the ballpark. So we're gonna need to watch that. A couple of things. I'm definitely running into these like, oops, I didn't do that right, and I go back off camera and fix it, and I end up having to delete clips and create new clips to replace the deleted clips. So this is getting a little tricky as we progress, where there's just a lot of these challenges that start to pick up on, like, am I doing this right? What about this rule? There's this sentence. And I can understand why this game is considered, maybe a little harder to learn. There's just so much going on. What's interesting, this is sort of like an inverse monster game effect where you can look at a big game. I mean, take your pick. You could be like Case Blue from OCS or DAC or World in Flames, and all these things. And those are all complex games to be sure. And I think of, like, sometimes a big monster game is just you iterating on a pretty clear, like, line of operation, standard operating procedures to be effective. And you're just doing that a lot in a lot of places. You do have to kind of string together a coherent map-wide strategy. Empire of the Sun's kind of like this inverse situation where there is a huge amount of cognitive load, but it is all hyper-focused on a one-map game, and maybe even just hyper-focused in one area of the map, but you're really having to take a lot of different pieces and assemble what you want out of it. And I do think that can lead to a lot of paralysis analysis for people. Um, and Erasmus, the solitaire bots, all those things can kind of help add some framing to what you want to do. But I am seeing that, like, I'm getting to the point where I care a little less about what Erasmus wants me to do. I have things that I want to do. I'm going to let the solitaire system constrain my desires. But I do feel like this gets easier to get your head wrapped around the operations as you go. And now I think the challenge is, if you watch the previous videos, like, the Japanese know what they need to do. They have a pretty good gauge of, like, what's in front of them still. What do they need to try to accomplish? They know that the Allies are going to get a boatload of reinforcements. So what do we do? Do we play more conservatively now? Do we try to make some big plays to make a big difference? How do we, really want this to go? And I think that's where, ultimately where I need to try to lean into the game and figure out what the Japanese want to do. Try to achieve an early victory, right? That's really what the Japanese are going to try to do, because I think I've played in a way that if I don't win early and soon, I'm going to be so brittle that the Allies will laughably march back across the map. You might feel like, oh, the Allies are just taking hit after hit, and they are, but the weight of all the reinforcements coming is truly large, right? It's a huge amount of stuff. The Allies are pushing back in the Burma theater, and that could be a really big game changer. It could lead to early losses or liberations, we'll say, from the Allied perspective, of Malaya, even the Dutch East Indies, if put under enough pressure. We may even seek to take a different route than the historical narrative for the Allies, and instead try to drive a knife up through this direction towards the Philippines, and use that as a way to get close to the Japanese home islands. A lot of different possibilities could come out of this, guys. I do think the fact that the card decks are so big does mean, like, there's a lot of variety. I have no idea if I'm going to see a particular card. We saw that Rear Admiral card come out that really helped us go beat up on Hawaii again. I guess I didn't appreciate that card even existed, because I've not examined the deck at that detail, and was like, oh man, this is the perfect thing to go do. So there's a lot of exciting unknown factors that are coming in as we're playing through. It is a lot, right? So I totally get, for the folks that have put in the comment section, boy, this game's a lot to try to absorb. I've tried, I've failed. I do think the way I'm doing it is really useful. Use Erasmus as a guiding hand until you don't need it. It's training wheels. The solitaire system helps take the pressure off as a solitaire exercise of just like, well, I can only pick these two cards. I'm going to have to just pick one and make it work. That forces you to make some decisions, and you naturally learn how to do an offensive on a budget, how to figure out what you're going to achieve if you pay attention to the way that everything is coming together. So while this video series may be not super helpful in teaching it, it is showing, I hope, explaining kind of what factors in as you play, and that can add to your learning experience. Obviously, an opposed game is going to have a ton of its own intricacies, right? Like you playing against an opponent for any war game, playing it solitaire is a different game from playing it opposed, right? You're really getting two games in one if the game can be soloed at all. So keep that in mind. Like all the things that I'm doing maybe wouldn't even happen in an opposed game because somebody would have been able to stop it, or you figure you do play through your hand of cards every turn, and that we would have some cases that are happening in this game, like me sitting on a reaction card for maybe more than one turn. You wouldn't really get that um, in an opposed game. So keep all that in mind, guys. Like we're definitely like we're playing the game. It's a little bit non-standard for those reasons, but we're in the thick of it, and I hope it's enjoyable to watch. We're gonna keep rolling here. Again, the title of the video might spoil whether or not this is the last turn for this playthrough, but I will say, if you're watching this, if this is the end, and maybe it isn't, maybe we're going into turn 5, but if this were the end, I would be aiming to uh, start the next campaign in like 1943, and we would just play a 1943 campaign game because I want to play to the end. I want to see the late stages of the game and how that's working out, and Japan on the back foot, even if we don't get it in this exact playthrough that I'm doing right this second. So we'll go from there, guys. I'm going to go and take care of reinforcements. We're going to do replacements. We're going to do strategic warfare, and we're going to deal strategy cards, even though there's not much dealing to be done. I'm going to do all that reinforcement phase stuff right now off camera. I'm not going to segment it. We'll talk about where things have wound up. But just to know, like, the Americans are going to get a replenishment of naval units that Japan is going to have to decide. Their carriers have already been attriting, and we're not going to be able to replace those. Do we continue to go on, carrier hunting streaks to try to lower political will, or not, or just like we've set up as good as we could? Where else does the game take us at this point? Can we lower political will any other way, stop progress of war, all of that? Someone did point out that increasing the Allied ASP level might actually hurt us because it's going to require greater progress of war. I think that's totally valid, so that may have been a mistake of mine early on. I've made the mistake. We're just going to have to play with it. So the Allies are under a lot of pressure. They might break. I might even get to the point where I get to the end of the turn and say, I don't know if I'm going to be able to come back from this, but we'll see. All right. We'll get the reinforcement stuff done, and we'll transition to the offensive phase here soon. Okay, here we are after the reinforcement phase. I will say, the Allies got a lot of stuff because they basically got last turn's reinforcements and the turn 4 reinforcements, which are not delayed because we played that War in Europe card. So that box is empty. We've got a lot of stuff to put. We already got it all out there. Lots of replacements for air. Like, I think the air stuff is gonna make what the game, turns out to be an Allied victory, is just because of how much air. Like, use air all the time, take all the hits you want, put them right back on the board, because that's basically what's going to happen. So all the Commonwealth reinforcements besides the Australian ones have gone into India. We're going to see probably a big push there from the Allies, as you can imagine. So a lot of obvious buildup over there. And then we've reinforced Guadalcanal a great deal. We've kind of set a lot of things locally in this area. And you can see, you're like, wait, how did these air units get there? Well, they're still technically Allied controlled, and they're outside the ZOI. Now, they're potentially in range of some of the Japanese air, but toe-to-toe, the Allies win out and the Japanese lose their air.
And they basically now they'll be projecting ZOIs over Guadalcanal, which I stupidly, as Japan, did not put any air units in here at all. I've got some decent sized units, but that is going to force a response from Japan to like clear some of that stuff out of the way. Um, so that's one aspect of things, and then I've reinforced Hawaii a little bit with some air cover, and then we've put the majority. We've put a Marine division and all of the naval reinforcements way up here in Dutch Harbor. So why did we do that? Dutch Harbor is hard to hit right now by any of the major Japanese naval forces. There's like one naval unit over here that could run over there, but they would get trounced. We can't quite, I don't think we can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah. It's out of range of our primary Japanese fleet at Kwajalein. Um, and it actually puts the Allies in a really good position to attack Midway, where Midway is not in range of a Japanese HQ. The closest one's probably that one or the combined fleet, but it's too far of a trace for those guys. And basically, so long as the Allies bring enough units to bear, they can attack. So the only other options we really have would be to reinforce Midway with units in our own amphibious assault over there in the hope that we can get reinforcements so that the island can't be taken by that Marine division. So it's almost like, Midway is actually under the guns of the Allies to be retaken and taken relatively easily. I think someone commented, what an audacious move to take Midway. I think it was, and it really, it's not going to get me as far as I want to be. So I need to think about like what are my real options here. I can try to reinforce with some of our division or our army group units, ship them over here. We could certainly do that. The trick will be, again, how much can the Allies bring to bear? So this is an opportunity actually for us to use our future offensive card as the Allies to go first, I think, and actually just trounce on it right away before the Japanese have a chance to respond. Obviously, this is where this starts to come in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like we could force the great big decisive battle, but I don't know that the Japanese are going to get lucky, and if they throw their aircraft carriers in one more time like this, they could lose them all. So I'm just going to have to make a decision, right? Like, do we go for Midway early and then kind of keep the Japanese from getting back in there without extraordinarily high effort? The other thing we have to do now, because while the Japanese have gotten some reinforcements, it's not much, guys. It's really not. And they've gotten one of their, like 3 naval replacements, and we did it putting Junio back on the board because it is replaceable. But it's going to be tough. Here's the thing, right? Like once the carrier units start to be removed, this decreases the ability of Japan to project ZOIs. So the rule book, designer notes, do clearly point out that like you're going to think about the game in terms of ZOIs a lot because you're going to knock stuff out of supply. You're going to cut off activation routes. Where are you projecting your ZOIs based on the air bases that you control out here in the Pacific? And the fact that I don't have a ZOI here puts Rabaul in tremendous trouble. I could have moved something in there. I just didn't. I didn't prioritize it. So that's a mistake that I've made as Japan. That's like, oops, I could have simply sent the Ryujo down here and that'd have been fine. Or, took the Zuiho and did the same thing. Now I might simply lose Rabaul. And for the Allies, what's really important at this point now is that from here on through the rest of the game, they have 7 cards. If they can keep Japan out of Rangoon, Japan will only have 6 cards moving forward, which means the Allies will have a card advantage and initiative advantage overall. They'll be able to start making some goodness. But we do have our progress of war. We're going to need, I guess I need to reset that. Whoops. We need 4 ASPs, right? Worth of recaptured important hexes. So as the Allies, I need to actually think about that, right? Like what happens if, let's just talk through the what ifs here, right, in terms of overall strategy. If we fail to take Midway back, then we lose a political will point. We go from 3 to 2. If we fail to take four, if we fail to make 4 progress of war gains, we lose a political will point. And if we lose Rangoon at all, let's just say the Japanese somehow flip it over, that would see potentially the fall of Burma, and that would lose us a political will. So for the Allies, like this is the do or die turn, right? We're at the bottom of the barrel. If the Japanese can come away with it, they could win the game this turn. Like it's conceivable. I don't know that it's likely, but it's conceivable. But if the Allies can stick it out, if they can avoid total failure here, they could come back in the game in a very big way because the Japanese will be so worn down by their over aggressiveness that the Allies can make great progress and just run up the board. So here's the thinking, right? If we can get Midway, that's 1. And we're going to have to do it with 1 shipping point, right? Get 1 for 1, basically. Every time we use a shipping point is going to have to take a location at this point, unless we somehow get all the way into Bangkok, which I don't know that we should expect that to happen. So ignoring Bangkok for a second, I don't think we're going to get into Bangkok, but who knows? I ideally need to use all my shipping points very carefully to get my captured bases. So 1 for Midway, 2 for Rabaul, I think is the obvious, like we're cutting stuff out of supply. Let's just get in there and smash it up, right? We should be able to, and we're going to do it with air, right? We're not going to do it with a bunch of naval, and it's going to take us a couple of activations. 1 activation to swarm air and remove all of these guys, and then ideally on a second card, then we do an invasion because there's no naval units there to block us. Or we drop into New Britain and then we attack terrestrially, and I might do that. So we've got a couple of options, but ideally it's Midway, Rabaul, and then I need to pick another place to advance. I've got some options. It would be great to take Vogelkop and or Bayak. That would get us 4, but we have some stuff to overcome, and whether or not we're going to be able to do that is unclear. It would be great to maybe grab one of these islands over here. Now, there's a lot of uncertainty in that, but they're currently empty. I don't have a Japanese ZOI there. We could grab Palau, and that would be a third one. So we've got some options. Like we're gonna have to see the way that the cards play out, what the Japanese are doing to reset their defense and cover the bases. But the Allies, like, we really need to make sure we do it. If we don't get enough, I think even if we get like 3 of 4, then by the end of the turn, we're going to lose a political will. So like we have to do something. Neither side has inter-service rivalry. If that were to come out, that would obviously put a huge wrench in the works of a lot of what's going on the map. If the Allies get inter-service rivalry, they're going to have a really hard time making the progress that they ideally want to be making. They're going to have to be really diligent with how they move and operate. We could also get audacious ourselves as the Allies and maybe start targeting some of these, Caroline or Marshall Island locations as well. Not sure we're going to want to do that. We could try to pick on locations in the Dutch East Indies, like even grabbing a one-off airport airbase isn't terrible, right? Like it's not bad. Like we could take Manado and then maybe work our way into projecting a ZOC over Davao eventually. So that's kind of where we're at, guys. That's the decision-making process I need to think about. I'm going to go get started. Strategic warfare failed by a hair. We almost managed to do a strategic warfare result on the Japanese, but we missed it by 1 due to the 1942 modifier. And then we got the cards out again. America, or allies, have 7 cards. They have their future offensive cards still. Japanese have 7 cards. This is the last turn that they'll have 7 by default. If they don't take Rangoon, they're going to have 6 moving forward, and could end up with less than that if the Allies take back some of these resource hexes. So that's the rub, guys. We're going to go. I'll have to, when we return back here after the cut, either the Allies will have used their future offensive card to go, or the Japanese will go I'll need to double check the initiative because maybe the Allies get to go first anyway. Ideally, we jump on Midway before it can be reinforced. That's the hope. We'll have to see. So, all right, let's get rolling here. In the September to December last turn of 1942. Okay, this is after the first two card plays. Japan did go first. If I read the initiative rules correctly, in the case where both sides have an equal number of cards, the player with a future offensive cannot preempt and go first. It has to be Japan because it's 1942. So they did. They played the Ha-Go Burma offensive as an ops card and had reinforced Midway and then launched an attack to clear Allied air north of Rabaul to kind of liberate the supply line of Rabaul. And I mean, there was a decent chance that there was a possibility that the Allies would have lost the initiative die roll, and we would have maybe chewed up that air and removed the ZOI. However, the Allies succeeded, and then cultivated all of their air and managed to bounce the Japanese back. Both sides rolled pretty low, so the Allies took no hits. The Japanese took one hit to the Ryojo, which is one more step of carriers that is not going to come back. So I'd say that was like, in the big scheme of things, it was good for the Allies. On their card, they got a C die roll, meaning they flipped the top card and they could play that or the lowest ops card. And I don't know that we're going to end up needing to use this for a while, so we went ahead and played this for ops. And in that particular offensive, we really just concentrated and took Midway. There was no real way for the Japanese to respond because these guys are out of, this for Japan. This was out of command range, so no real ability to respond. Because of concentrated naval air and no opposing naval air, we could inflict step losses on the Japanese army that I sent to reinforce it. Remove that unit. The last step was the Marine that was still there, and they were kind of a clean sweep for the American Marines that landed there. So Midway's recovered. We're not in danger of losing a political will point for Hawaii being occupied, so that's cleared up. And we do have one progress of war. So far, so good, right? Like, we played our card, we got what we needed as the Allies, A-okay. And the Japanese lost more steps, and we lost none. I'd call that a really great opening for the Allies in that regard. So that's what we've got. These two cards starting off the turn. I thought about doing something in Burma, but it really felt like, one, we wanted to try to get more stuff. And it was a two-step army unit, right? But when you just have all of the American Navy pounding the island into dust, that's what you get. But I really wanted to free this up because I don't want Rabaul to fall because it's going to give progress of war. So I think the Japanese now need to consider, pushing for Burma, but who knows? So we'll put these cards aside, and then we'll go back to the Japanese player for their second card. All right, this is after the second set of cards played. Kind of an easy-going thing here. The Japanese had some limited options, and they did get the bridge over River Kwai card, which they played for the event, so this is going to end the game, leave the game. We've got the marker, we've got the transport route. This is going to enable, Burma to get intense. It's been quiet for a while. Probably going to see it get more intense. So that card's out. And then we had the Allies, kind of funny situation here. You can see now, and I'm going to shift this card. There's now an Imperial, and both sides have the cards to end inter-service rivalry if it occurs, which gives both sides, amusingly enough, some safety to work with. We ended up with two China offensive cards out of the Allies' draw. So we played one, and then we moved, this one from here to here. That's fine. Right now, there's no point in playing Allied Chinese offensive cards because nothing has changed on the Chinese front at all so far this game. I thought I was going to go hard for it, and instead I've been wrapped up in the Pacific. So we played this as a ops card, and we picked on poor, out of supply Rabaul, and we managed to avoid taking any losses. And gave 2 losses to the Japanese naval units here, both which are non-replaceable. We're basically working on just getting it cleared up so that we can do a naval landing without naval units being in the way. And, we're keeping our main fleet kind of out of the reach of the Japanese for now, because next turn we're just going to get more reinforcements, and then we'd be willing to engage the Japanese fleet on equal terms and expect to come out the great victor. So we don't want to lose our carriers, so I'm being really careful of where the carriers are being used. We can't suffer that political will loss. We just can't afford it. So that's it for the next 2 cards. Right, we have 2 cards played on each side, 5 left for each side. The Allies probably are going to need at least another operation to clear these guys. And then they're going to, if they get Rabaul, they've got to figure out where are the other 2? Where else are we going? We could, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 on a 3 card, take Kopang. That might be worth it just to start threatening the Dutch East Indies, from this perspective. And like, it's rife with locations that we could grab for war purposes. Just that's really, it's one step. We're keeping these as 1-step guys, so it only costs 1 shipping point to move them. But it's still expensive, right? So like, we have to really think carefully about the moves we make in this regard and go from there. So next 2 card plays coming up next. Okay, next card plays are done, guys. U.S. got put in a really tough position where they had to play a bigger card or potentially lose their Douglas MacArthur card. So they just went with the Operation Cherry Blossom. This was a Rabaul operation, but we also did some amphibious invasions of the Dutch East Indies, capturing some ports and some air. If you look at the 1943 setup in Vassal or wherever, you'll notice like there's a bunch of Japanese air covering this area down here, which I did not do. And I'm kind of, because I did that and I was so focused on offensives rather than establishing a true security perimeter. So poor play starting to show itself in big ways, guys. I over gambled. The Allies are picking up these locations. Now, they're not necessarily in a great position right this second to like follow these up, but so long as we can hold them, and this would be a massive distraction of Japanese forces in this area to try to push them back out. We're now up to 3 progress of war. We only need 1 more. And we could, kind of wait till the final card plays and just, again, grab something easy that's currently empty. That's got some air cover, so we can't just drop right into Davao. But the Allies are like, they're doing fine. What we had to do as Japan was, we spent a card to like shuffle our units around in preparation for further offensive in Burma, because at this point we need to take Rangoon. Like, everything else is starting to become under threat, and like, we need to make something happen in Burma at this point. So we're drawn off. We're kind of spread thin. And again, I think, the Allies just have time on their side that they can be slowly picking up advantages here and then starting to pile on as things progress. So we'll keep going, but we use the Kamikaze attack card as an ops card as Japan to do that Burma move. That went first, then Allies played Operation Cherry Blossom. Critical thing is we've been failing our intelligence rolls as Japan here, which is why Rabaul's now kind of like going to be toast. Even we could have maybe activated some guys to come down here. Well, I keep rolling 9s. 8 and 9s on intelligence die rolls for Japan, so it's kind of like the reverse of some of what we've seen for the Allies, in the early phases. So now it's like, oof, maybe we're in trouble as Japan. Things are starting to not look so good, and every card is needed to move stuff around the map. So we've got a challenge here. You can start to see the blue and green, trajectory here coming back down through if we are prepared to engage the Japanese fleet. They're still sitting on this reaction card, but that reaction card wouldn't have probably changed much, right? Like, we want that reaction card to engage the U.S. Navy. That's why we didn't use it. So, yeah, tough decisions, guys. And I will say, I am not a model of good or smart play. This is really my first honest try at the whole shebang here, so I'm making big mistakes. learn from my mistakes, use the setups of 1943 to see what I should have done and did not do to protect the line or through here through New Guinea. I just did not do that. I have poorly defended my territory. I have not optimized for those things, and now it's going to hurt heavily at that. All right, next set of card play. Japan got forced into a situation where they had to play the card that would cause inter-service rivalry against the Allies. That didn't really matter because we knew they could recover from it, so we played it as an ops, and we just sneaked away with getting into Rangoon. It was a very near-run thing, but we did successfully do it. I do need to eventually activate some other units to get in there and project ZOIs. I kind of try to do a dual land attack and air naval and amphibious invasion, and the amphibious invasion didn't go the way that I wanted it to, but the ground combat ended up being the thing that made the difference, and we managed to get in. This had to do with a decent die roll on the Japanese side and an abysmal die roll on the Allied side in ground combat. So there's progress to be made here for the Japanese, and of course, getting into Burma really helps and is now going to affect a lot of other things in that theater, so that's good. On the other hand, we had a scrap here, and the Japanese did react, and they tried to, disrupt the Allied air raids on Rabaul. The Allies ended up scoring a critical hit and sunk one of the Japanese carriers. It's one of the smaller carriers. Who was it? Zuiho. So he's gone, just gone. And we've deleted some other cruisers. So the Japanese Navy's just starting to get attrited away due to air cover and air power. And I think this goes to show, if you're trying to derive like what did Steve do wrong here, I got so hyper focused on carrier battles that like I should have gone for Guadalcanal early and taken control of all these islands, so that we would not be getting cut out of supply, and we would have more reaction capability and be fighting at New Guinea rather than it was like I didn't commit to the Solomon Island campaign. Like I really did not, and I'm paying the price for it big time. We've managed to lose a lot of naval capability because of that. Things are looking funky already for Japan, even though it's not like we're not at total collapse yet. Now, us getting more resource hexes is helpful. But really, we're going to start getting into trouble as we look at other resource hexes that are under threat under the protection of the South HQ over here, as there's encroachment. But it's not good. I need to get some air ZOIs over there, but I also am trying to project ZOIs on the theaters that I'm fighting in. So I'm feeling the crunch. Like I need to get stuff moving here, get some reinforcements doled up to operate a bit differently than we are right this second, and send probably some of the air that's up here that have had a hard time using because they've been out of the way, out of my reaction or activation that I'm focused on, bouncing between South Seas and South. I need to peel them off, have them reinforced somewhere down here, or fly them some other way so that we can use them. That's the rub. So those were these two card plays. We'll go to the next. Things are winding down on this turn already. All right, tough situation here, guys. We played Operation IGO as a ops card, and we have pushed deeper into Burma, though it is a tight thing because the Allies did react, and now they have a very tough line of defense. I'm not sure how I'm going to break it, if I'm ever going to break it, though the Chinese forces are actually in pretty rough shape at this point. I'm probably a little overextended here, but basically, like, we are, in a reasonable spot that we can opt to continue to push through. I don't know that we're going to go on China offensives, but I do think like we want to try to cause the fall of Burma for the political will points. The Allies got put in a really bad situation because of the solitaire die roll, where basically I could either play the one ops Douglas MacArthur card and lose our ability to protect ourselves from inter-service rivalry, um, or we just play this card for nothing. Basically play the event card, China offensive, uh, and have no result. But I think I'm going to take that for the moment, however badly advised that could be. Again, this is where the solitaire system, affects the game in different ways, guys. Where I'm not doing everything that I want to do as either side, but I'm making gains where I can. So we'll leave it at that for now. All right. I'm going to go ahead and play the next card play. But we're getting down to the wire here, guys. There's not many more card plays left. And so, the midway thing is done. Burma still might fall conventionally here if the Japanese get another good card swing at it, and they very well might if they can concentrate and force a retreat and get some good die rolls. Like that could happen. Frantic, attempts to reinforce, but it's going to draw so many Japanese resources to fight in Burma. So many, so many, so many. We did move, I should point out, we did move this air unit over to this air base and is now covering these guys in a ZOI. So that's nice to hold for the moment. That just keeps those guys from doing sneaky leaps into the Philippines or in any of these other locations, because we could have seen Allied units start to rebase over here, and we don't want that. So we're going to try to shut that down with that one unit, hope for the best. Tight rolling from here on out. So, all right, another round of cards. All right, next batch of cards, which I believe is going to get us to the last card plays here. We ended up having to play Imperial Intervention, which sucks for Japan. But we've gone on our offensives in Burma, and ultimately the Allies used Operation Forager 2 to counteroffensive in Burma, and there's just been vicious fighting. Unfortunately for the Allies, I do think Japan's going to be able to, they're drawing off strength from elsewhere, which is not necessarily a good thing, but they're going to be able to cycle through and take Mayat Kinya, which is going to shut the Burma Road, cause the collapse of Burma. There's not really any Burmese units left on the map at this point, but creating the circumstances now where the Allies haven't really had a chance to build those transport routes. It's really hard to trace the supply up there. They're going to have to be careful. There's still a lot of strength, right? I mean, if you look at it, it's like, okay, maybe Dhaka is empty, which is actually super dangerous, and we might need to pull back, because what could happen is we stomp in here, and then there's all kinds of trouble. And it's not like we couldn't try to do it with Japan. So Japan is maybe winning out in Burma right now as we go into the last card play. The Allies still have one progress of war to make, which actually might be our problem as the Allies. We need to go take Rabaul. Maybe we should have, it's like, shit, what do we do to stop a political will? At this point, we probably can't stop Burma from falling. We can get our last progress of war, so that at least slows things down a little bit. So I think we're going to do that. Last card play, I believe, coming up here. All right, guys, here are the last card plays, and boy, they're a doozy because both of these cards are just circumstantially not what either player wanted, but the solitaire dice are fickle beasts. This would be a lovely card to play as an event, right? War in Europe, knock the U.S. down a little bit, start to add delays to their reinforcements, help to offset the pain that's going on the map as the Japanese are retreating immensely. But we played it as an ops, and basically we've cycled units on the map, leaving some areas dreadfully undermanned to finish the conquering of Burma, which has shifted the U.S. political down one. On the Allied turn, they were like, okay, we're going to grab Rabaul. This should be doable based on all circumstances. Here's the weird shit that can happen in this game. Again, solitaire solitaire system, I guess, die roll said, you got to use your lowest ops card. So here it is, Douglas MacArthur. This was, again, our defense against inter-service rivalry. The Japanese had to play theirs. Well, now the Allies are playing theirs. We ran it as a 3 ops, right? well, 1 op plus 2, 3 units, air cover, invasion. Amazingly enough, uh, amazingly enough, we were able to turn it into an intercept with some air and sea power from truck that got in there at extended range, and in the ensuing fight, we turned back the naval invasion, which means that Rabaul holds, and the U.S. failed to meet their progress of war. Okay, so now U.S. will is down to 1, dangerously close, guys, dangerously close to the end. Now, just by the by, these guys are not going to suffer attrition because you ignore enemy ZOI and impassable terrain for attrition purposes, right? So the reason why the Japanese units up here attrited away out of the range of an HQ, he's in range of the truck HQ. These guys are in range of the Southwest Pacific, right? 20 hexes out. They're still there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep. So despite us, ZOI covering, meaning they're not going to be able to activate, they don't attrit, so they can hold on to that territory, which means it's still a decent leaping off point. But things are really dire for the Allies right now. Like they're at the end of their rope. If we get one event card as the Japanese that can knock political will down, like there are cards that do that, I think, and all that has to happen is for those to come up, and the game could end this next turn. So I'm kind of in a weird spot. I don't think we should give up. In fact, again, I'm going to point out just how weak the Japanese position is. Like, is there strength here? Sure. Sure. But there's strength in the Allies too. Don't count them out. And they could come in, knock these guys out of supply, do all kinds of stuff that would slow down the Japanese advance. And in fact, we could liberate some areas and start to get our political will back. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to play in this video for a little bit longer into turn 5, because I think this will be the turn of decision. I don't want to be like, okay, guys, catch you next time, and then have the next video be 5 minutes long. We're going to push. This video might get long because of that, but I want to push a little bit into this next turn because one political will is all it's going to take. There's a couple different ways that could come about, but the Allies have got to decide, what are they going to try to do here to make a difference in the game. Again, poor play is contributing to this. I've made some huge mistakes as the Japanese, but I think the Allies have suffered the worst decision making probably in just the I maybe could have been more aggressive, or I should have been doing some things earlier than I started doing. So please don't look at this as good play. I don't think it's good play. But that's the end of turn 4. Let me get rolling into turn 5, and we'll see what else happens here, guys. I'm going to go do the reinforcement phase. All right, here we are, turn 5, finishing up the reinforcement phase. Allies definitely have a lot of air power. They're getting ground units on the board, lots of different things that are conceivably helpful to them. And I should say, based on the extra replacement points, you really got to watch out for this, guys. It's easy to miss that you can get extra naval steps. It's not indicated here, which is kind of ridiculous. That you got, it's a little out of the way. It's here. It's just a little out of the way. You got to read it. Gain 1 per turn, right? It's 1 per turn. So we have a big, nasty U.S. Navy stack that's ready to go on the offensive here. And I put them all together. We're going to meter this out. I need to think about this for a second. These guys should probably start in Hawaii. And then if I've got enough air cover, which I reasonably do, these guys are in Hawaii together. We're going to take this fleet and start to, go on some real offensives, do some shuffling around. Arguably, I should send stuff down here, but again, we're waiting for that opportunity to smash the Japanese fleet and get on with the rest of the game. We have 5 ASPs as the Allies. We still are going to be aiming to get 4 progress of war, which means we're a little more advantaged. We've got some room to work with. We can actually launch bigger invasions with multi-step units like this big guy here. And we can start to look at maybe capturing truck, maybe pushing again into some of these areas. We're just trying to build up. Now, on the Japanese reinforcement side, I got some air units. I plugged them down here. So now there are indeed some air ZOIs arresting development down here. We've also siphoned off more Chinese. At this point, like the China theater is not what's going to win the war for us, or win the game for us, I should say. So I'm bringing more steps out. There is no hump. So currently China is out of supply, or like this part of China is out of supply. We could launch Chinese offensives and like they could matter over the course of the game. We're just really far from it being super meaningful to get there. That would obviously win the game for us. India is under threat, so like we could be pushing into northern India, and if we do, that kind of gives us this really nice, tremendous advantage around uh, causing India to quote unquote surrender, and that would also get us to win the game. But we're several steps away from making that happen, so it's more of a holdover time situation. But we don't want to lose control of Burma because then the U.S. would get political will. So down to one political will. Anything could make that. There's a couple different ways to make that drop. The key one here is the Japanese need to try to keep the progress of war from progressing. If they can do that, be generally on the defensive, they can win the game this turn. If they draw a card that allows U.S. political will to drop, they could win the game this turn. The Allies really need to find, the Allies could find a card that raises political will. That's entirely possible, but I don't know if that's what will occur. Now, because both sides have 7 cards, but it is technically 1943, January through April 1943, the Allies will get to go first. Now, they have a lot of unrevealed cards on their tray, so it's going to be interesting. We could start off with our future offensive card we've been saving. I don't know where I'm not sure if I want to do that yet. So obviously, guys, we'll go through, and I'll keep playing it as I think it's helpful that I'm playing this in pairs of cards. Like each side gets to go first round, right? Until we get through 7 rounds of card play. That will help us understand what's going to happen in the game and get to the end point, if the end point is indeed about to occur. We're not even quite halfway through the game yet, guys. So like there could just be a lot. There's still a lot of fight left, and there could be some major reversals of fortune here as things progress. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Allies going first. All right, first 2 cards. Allies played Operation Forager, and they used the naval units I put in Hawaii to raid Kwajalein and actually, attrited the Japanese down. The Japanese may need to pull out of Kwajalein at this point and try to regroup a stronger force. Because the Allies are going to probably hit them again and destroy the Japanese Navy, and then it's going to be more downhill from there. On the other hand, the Japanese player, my other side of my brain, is saying, okay, well, let's wait and see on that, but let's push. And I got a War in Europe card, and I'm going, okay, we're going to hurt, and we are pushing in Burma, and sure enough, we've got an imphal now. Ideally, I need to try to build the imphal transport route at some point soon. I don't have a card on my tray to do it with right now, but like I would like to do that, and then if I can, then I would try to follow it up with further attacks. At this point, the Allies probably need to pull back. Like there's no ground units in northern India anymore except for this one step. So they've got air cover. Like this unit probably needs to pull back, or we risk losing Dhaka anyway. All that's under threat. So like at this point, the Japanese are going to be pushing to holding the northern India region and trying to make all of that work, which they certainly can try. The Commonwealth Navy has been trying to pound the coast and helped this unit from being destroyed outright. So there's kind of a naval air attrition going on there, but it's not enough by itself to make a difference. There's just like there's no naval capability anymore. The Commonwealth units that were fighting the good fight at Imphal have been utterly destroyed, though the Japanese took several step losses to do it. So it's like we're fighting down to the nubs here, but it's going to go maybe in Japan's favor. Now, that's not going to immediately change the political will situation, but it would put us in a really good position to start to slowly tick down the China front, the India front at the same time. There's a time based aspect to that that will matter, while the Allies are fighting their own timer. Getting in here. Like if they take Kwajalein, then they're going to be able to take Truck, and then they're going to be able to take Saipan, and that pushes us already into the late game potentially, where the Allies can just smash, smash, smash as much as they can on these things. So if I look, 1, 2, 3, 4, that we got to get some additional air over Saipan as Japan. Like we got to start thinking about defense. Hard to say, but those are the first two card plays of turn 5. We'll go into the second round. All right, card plays. Americans decided to play. They had an option of 2 cards. This was clearly the better one. U.S. carrier raid. This time with our fleet in Oahu, we struck Kwajalein. We destroyed basically several of the Japanese carrier units, and all that remain are Yamato and the Tenryu at Kwajalein, and a step of air, which is not a huge amount. Basically, we're going to see Kwajalein very likely taken at this point. Like we'll see. We'll go for a big show here and knock it out. We'll see what else can happen. Now the Japanese got screwed on the die roll and had to play their lowest ops card, which is this intelligence reaction card. We played that for 3, the Burma HQ, and we managed to. Just realized if I did what I. Oh wait, no, that's okay. All right, we're good. Anyway, yeah, we did push through, and now Northern India is kind of at threat. Now we've got a weird supply situation, as well as the challenge of the Allied air there that's going to keep us from having good supply lines into Northern India at all. But I think we can push through and cause some pain and havoc, regardless. So like both sides are taking, like what is it going to mean? I think the Allies are thinking, well, the India countdown can start. We need to do progress of war. We're going to lose the game straight up. We'll have some opportunities to try to make up the difference, we hope. Otherwise, this is going to be a Japanese victory. So we're going to keep going. Next card round. Okay, guys, I made an oopsie. You might have caught it before I talked to it. I accidentally had a case, I think a couple card plays ago, where I was allowing more than 1 battle hex with an ops card. And you can't do that, actually. And so there's probably greater progress made in Burma than should have been being made. And so I've tried to fix it by restoring some removed British units and Indian units to try to make up for it. So this is going to be a rub, guys. Like, I think the end result would have still been Japan kind of overwhelmingly winning this front. But to keep it interesting, and I can't go all the way back because there's just too many die rolls and too many things have happened. But I'm going to give some units back and basically keep. Otherwise, Japan was going to be able to waltz right into Northern India. And even if these guys were out of supply, like they don't need to be in supply to do what they need to do. So I'm going to keep that there. It'll still likely mean that these guys are going to like activate and, achieve some level of victory. It's just that at the moment, there's some challenges. We still have to build the Imphal road. But there's a few other units that are just like they're moving. They're technically maybe not in supply right this second. If I count, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So there's some challenge to some of the units on the map right now. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah. So like this guy can't quite trace, but he occupied Jarhat. So this is, I don't know, this is kind of like the thing that I want to try to do to make up for what I was doing. And we'll say that the Japanese will need to play another card if they're going to bang their way into de Monsieur and Daka. I don't know. There you go, guys. I'm trying to fix my mistakes. There's some goofiness there. I think at least on one occasion, I had declared two battle hexes where I should have only declared one. There's at least one or two cases of that, so I apologize. That's my bad. I'm kind of playing fast now, guys, because I'm just like rocking and rolling. What's going to happen next? Having fun, but that could lead to more mistakes. Now the Allies played Bataan Death March first, which increased the U.S. political will by one if the Japanese control Manila. Heck yeah, we're going to do that. Now, U.S. political will is at two. We're in less danger of a complete collapse. Things were very close, but we're going to move on from there. So, next round. Well, interesting go of it. We played Curtis LeMay as an ops card as the Americans to do a final sort of cleanup raid against Kwajalein, but sure enough, it and I do wonder, like, maybe I should have gone for Enwitok instead, and maybe that would have changed things, but it wouldn't really have changed things because of reaction. The Japanese managed to get their reaction, and a big air battle, a whole big thing occurred here that ultimately left the Allies retreating. Well, they were retreating anyway. It was a raid. It was an additional raid to soften everything up because the idea was completely wipe all this stuff out, take Kwajalein, take Anwaitak, take Truk, take Rabal, and then we're in the money. But unfortunately, we're still not getting to where we want to be, honestly. So now the Japanese took a lot of hits, which forced them to play this card to get some air replacements. And I put them on the air units that had reacted and are basically going to be the final line of late game defense of air power there at Guam and Saipan. Hard to say what else we can do here, guys. Like it's like, man, I should have. I don't know. I'm playing suboptimally. So these cards are done. We're gonna go to the next round. Well, this was really easy, guys. We were going to play a big major offensive. The objective of the Allies was to capture multiple bases all in one fell swoop and make big progress against the progress of war. But we played Japanese player, played weather. Offensive is canceled. And we can do a shot at a cruiser and unfortunately, there's none that would have been activated on that. So... but we stopped the offensive. So this card leaves the game. And Operation Flintlock is done. And so now we're down to the last two cards, which means unless the Allies play some really big offensives, they do have Operation Watchtower that could be used to maybe nab multiple hexes. It could very well be that the Allies lose another political will for no progress. So that's a problem. We could see something happen there. The Japanese have really lost their ability to go on the offensive. Like, we could send Hiei and the Yamato up to try to cause, maximum 26 damage, and we could maybe... Yeah, we could knock out the carriers, but it depends on getting a 3 card out of the handset. This could be these last couple of cards could really decide the game, guys. So like that's the key bit here. One more round. Just wanted to show you guys that like I went ahead. We still have reaction cards to use that could be very useful here, but also these guys have reaction cards that could be used like this ambush. So like things are going to start to get really tight here. I wish there was a better way to handle reaction cards in the solo system because you just sort of have them. And I guess what I should say is it is actually still the Japanese player's turn because they got a card back for the weather. So just to show like things are getting nasty, but yeah, let me play the Japanese card. Sorry, yeah, the Japanese still have 3 card plays left. The Allies have 2. But I don't know that the Japanese are going to have much that they want to do other than holding the line or pushing again in northern India. Okay, so completing that round, the Japanese played this card to get a reinforcement, which allows us to stick this guy right here protecting these islands that were really actually ripe for Allied invasion. And of course, then the Allies played Tornado Task Force and managed to get into Rabaul finally, but also sneakily took, uh, I'm going to butcher that, but also Enwitok. Uh, then the Japanese responded by playing this card as an ops and took back this airport. So now progress of war is at 2. Uh, one here, one here. Allies need to figure something out because they still need to get 2 more. They have 1 card play left. So unless something big happens, they're actually going to fail, which would not be good. And even right now, the Japanese player has a thought to try to knock down, uh, try to hit these carriers and deal some big damage to them with a 3 ops card if they can manage it. I'm still worried about, this, but because the uh, cards remaining for the Allies will be 1 and they can't pass, Japanese might be able to get away with this one, guys. This might be it. A lot of sacrifices being made across the board, but we'll see. So let's play the last 2 cards, the Allied card and then the Japanese card. Get these cards set up. We are seeing the Central Force card come up again, which is interesting. Yeah, so we'll go from there. Okay, this has turned into a frantic affair, guys, as the last card plays came out. Operation Watchtower was used. You can see, some running around grabbing this island back again. For some reason, this became the focal point as things have kind of congealed all around. We're starting to lose our air cover in various places, attriting, which is not good for Japan. And there was a sneaky move where the Marine in Wake jumped over with no battle hex and took Marcus Island with Watchtower as one of the moves. And I couldn't do anything about it because it was out of range of my ZOI. There was no battle hex. He just took it. But with Central Force, I didn't use it as an event. I used the combined fleet and activated, as much as I could over here to take back the island. Granted, I'm leaving the island of Japan a bit defenseless right now, the home islands, besides the intrinsic strength, but we had to take that hex back. We had to take it. In the process, we banged up, the American forces a little bit on a kind of a shoestring budget. It really helped that we could do some leaps from Iwo Jima over to here. So our, big air force protecting the home islands came in handy, and we knocked the Allies back out, which means that in terms of their total capture on this, guys, if they had another, they could maybe have grabbed that at some point too, as things were falling back. It's interesting how this all kind of works out when the fighting is all done. But basically, we have, 1, 2, 3 progress of war, but we needed 4. And so we actually are going to lose a political will down to 1. Now, in terms of attrition, I don't think anybody's really in danger of attrition at this point. Everything, it's all sticky, mind you, and things are starting to look rough all around, but it's kind of a hold here, guys. So that's the end of turn 5. So I'm going to call the video because this video is probably getting pretty long. Turns 4 and 5, getting through 1943. As it stands right now, just on the very edges of things, the Allies are back to 1 political will. That 1 card that they got has saved their bacon. And that I'm not going to play through another turn yet on this video. I want to get this out for you guys. But as it stands, right, as we're cleaning up, I'm putting the cards back around. The Allies, I mean, here's the thing. The Japanese Navy is nearly gone at this point. The highly attritional nature of all of this is weighing heavily. We still have a few like emergency reserves, and in fact, we used the Soryu, which is our kind of he helped with the Marcus Island operation. kind of our reserve carrier. We've still got the Congo. We still have, like, there's still a Japanese Navy, but the air ZOI stuff is falling apart like crazy. We're doing everything we can just to have something resembling air cover. Kwajalein has lost its air cover at this point, which means it's probably going to be taken this next turn. So the ally, you know, operations are now forming up like this as we get into 1943, which means, again, like we should start to see more trouble. Now, we could, finish getting Northern India wrapped up next turn. That won't immediately lead to anything. So next turn could still be incredibly intense because we just don't know how the rest of this is going to play out. If we can arrest, again, the development of the Allies, like I sort of ended up trapping these guys over here, which is not good. But the limits of ASPs are really what did it. And like we used our very last, each side used all of their amphibious shipping points this turn, just running around the Central Pacific here. So the fight is tough. I will say, like, I guarantee the next time I play this, I'll be much better about looking at the ZOIs because once you see the whole, you might not see it right away, right? In Vassal, it's much easier to see this stuff because there's visual indicators. But on the map, as is in person, like, you really need to look. Like, where am I missing a Zoc? Like, where am I susceptible? Where could somebody sneakily grab an island, like Marcus Island, underneath my nose? And now things are starting to shape up here, right? Like we can throw air. The only thing limiting Allied air right now is distance. But if we take, now we've got air bases in the Marshall Islands, so like this guy's in trouble, kind of no matter what. They're going to take Kwajalein. They're going to get into, probably Truk. Start to look at Saipan. We're going to need to ship more units, into Guam and Saipan just to slow these guys down. Need to put some steps into Iwo Jima. What else? I mean, it's just like it's going to start to get into that, guys. And every reinforcement that the Japanese player gets is going to be going into hardening the defense, and the last oomph out of the China theater may be going to shutting down India. But everything's going to be very tenuous from here on out. And once the Allies actually get fully rolling here, like they're going to base their fleet out of Ainwatak and then just be smashing their way on various raids, and we'll be switching to the late game before long because of it. But that's it for this one, guys. Boy, 2 turns, lots of craziness. I'm trying to move faster through the turns and not commenting as much because now it's just a bit chaotic. Again, I'm having to like correct mistakes and go back. Hopefully that actual video narrative works out well for you guys. I don't think I've screwed up like overcorrecting and having one clip not make sense against the other because I had to go back and fix it. But besides the Burma mix-up based on battle hexes, so you got to watch out for that. It's really easy to get like amped up and be like, I'm going to battle here, here, and here. Well, only if you used an event card. If you used an ops, it's only one. Besides sneaky stuff like this. So you really have to be careful. Your ability to operate is actually constrained to a certain degree. All right, I gotta stop talking, guys. All right, see you in the next one, guys. We'll hopefully get through at least turn 6 in the next video. This was turn 4 and 5. See you in the next one.